Recording in progress.
Are there any additions, removals, or modifications to the agenda pursuant to 1 VSA section 312D3A? I do have one item, a memo from Steve Lewis.
This is the one.
Yeah. Regarding an addendum to, well, hold on a second. So this would have us waive the FY 2027 penalty to property owners that file their homestead exemption declarations late. We've done that since 2013. Mm-hmm. It just allows folks a little bit of wiggle room. So I'd like to add that to the agenda.
Like 8B?
Yeah, right after 8, between 8 and 9, after the tax rate's set.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? With that, anybody here for the public forum? Nope. So the first business item is Cousins Brewing outdoor, wait a minute. Third class restaurant bar license. And this would be the first time, I believe, that Cousins has applied for this license. So we typically ask licensees to attend the first 2 years of meetings with the select board just to check in with them. And then after that, it's a perfunctory kind of thing on an annual basis. John, you want to explain what the purpose of the third class license is? How this might change?
Yeah, hi folks. Yes, just we've been running off the first class for going on to a year in the fall, and so we've been doing our own beer on tap plus wine, canned cocktails, seltzer drinks, and the non-alcoholic soft drink side of things. And we've just had a lot of feedback, especially from the females, about not enjoying the canned cocktails. They're all too sweet. Can't we just mix them a drink, please? And then a couple husbands saying the wife's not coming in because they don't want to drink I don't drink any of those things. So like a high noon lemonade or whatever the heck. So we're just looking to add a simple mixed drink menu and get rid of some of those pre-made cocktails in the cans and make a couple more customers happy with it.
Any questions from the board?
Everybody's trained.
Everybody's trained and currently certified, yes, sir.
Okay.
And you haven't had any problems in years, have you, with control?
Not at all. And you know, even running now, even on a band night, we have a hard midnight stop, and if we don't have a band, it's usually an 11 o'clock stop, and that makes things a lot simpler as far as, you know, nothing good happens after midnight, you know that saying. So we're trying to keep it that way and keep it a mellower program for sure.
Great. Any other questions or comments, Melissa? Motion?
No.
Motion to approve?
So
motion. Second?
Second.
Chuck? All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, John.
Aye.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
I did not see Alice.
I wonder if Alice was aware of the start time.
I mean, I put it in as much blinking lights as I could, email, but it would be easy to miss, I'm sure, so.
And I wonder if Leo was aware of the start time. Emerald Ash Borer or Kurt. Why don't we mix it up a little bit and go to item 4, since we've got folks here. Irene 15 Flood Resilience Series, 15th anniversary of Tropical Storm Irene. Josh and Luke, are you guys both here for that? And Ira?
Is it up here? Is that all right?
Yes, by all means.
And Ira.
So thanks for having us tonight. We know that you have a lot on your agenda, and so we appreciate you having us here. We're here to talk about, I'm Luke Foley. I'm the Education Outreach Manager with Friends of Mad River.
Josh Schwartz with the Mad River Valley Planning District.
Ira, I'm the Director of Friends of Mad River.
And we're here to discuss a project that we've been working on, which is focused on the 15th anniversary of Tropical Storm Irene. So this is the 15th anniversary. And for several years, we've been engaged in conversations with a number of different partners, especially with some of the flooding we experienced in the Julys and also in December, regarding our emergency response plans, emergency management, and acknowledging that there's still some work that we have to do as a community. And so this year, Friends of Mad River went out and received a grant from the Lake Champlain Basin Program, focused on an education series that's going to be 5 events over the course of this upcoming year. Those 5 events are focused on why the Mad River is especially prone to flooding, what we've done to be more prepared for flood situations, what we still need to do as a community, and that's a really key part of this, and then how the community can get engaged in this process. So we really see this series as a education to action pipeline. We want to take people from attending an event where they learn about a particular way that floods impact our community, and then apply that through some type of volunteer action that they can get involved with. And that might be everything from certifications to become, I don't know that they're certifications, but trainings to be able to be a volunteer in an emergency situation, to maybe volunteering for a group similar to the Waterbury Crew, which is focused more on long-term recovery. So we see this as an opportunity to engage the public in learning, but also opportunities to help with the process of how we address flood resilience as a community. So those 5 events will happen over the course of the next year. 4 of them are going to really follow the FEMA emergency management flow. So that is mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. So looking at specifically ways that we might have gaps as a community in those areas and what we can do to bolster ourselves. But the first event is really what we're here to discuss and to sort of approach you with a couple of asks. It is going to be on Thursday, September 10th. And it's going to happen in the village area of Bridge Street. And there's 2 reasons for that date. One is that it's very close to the Bridge Street celebration that happened following the cleanup after the Tropical Storm Irene event that happened. And the second is that it's 1 week after the last Roundup revival. So we wanted to not compete with another community event that was focused on building really good relationships. And the idea is that we want to create a walkable downtown area. We have partnerships right now with everybody from the church down to drip culture. So part of our ask is to consider closing the bridge for this event. One, because we want to make sure that there is safety for all pedestrians that are involved, because we do imagine having a number of art installations, activities, speakers on both sides of Bridge Street. And really, that's something that we've looked into. So we've been in touch with both Mervis and the fire department to talk about what that looks like when they do, when there are closures to the bridge. We know that there's going to be another more extended one coming up this year, and both Curve and Jared have responded back that they don't foresee it as a problem and they appreciate the heads up. And then really, the idea for the flow of this event is starting at 3 o'clock, so it is a Thursday, really focused on a local community. People can grab their kids and come from school, and there'll be learning activities for people of all ages. So there'll be activities happening at the river, different businesses. We have over 20 partners so far just in Bridge Street that are looking at ways that they can get involved, ways that they can create some way to get people in their doors, or have photo installations or art projects going on. And that'll happen for a few hours. Around 5 o'clock, we would have food. We would have a band come on. So for those of you that know the Scramblers, we've been in conversation with them, and also Phineas Gage, which is Rob Williams' band, have both shown an interest in playing. And we also know that there will be alcohol served, so that's another part of our ask tonight. And then at the conclusion of the evening, we envision working with Drip Culture to do sort of a community cold plunge, sauna, and then like a fireside chat, really people telling stories of personal and community resilience. And so the focus of this is, we want to acknowledge both the tremendous challenges that Tropical Storm Irene presented and how traumatic that was for our community, but also the way that our community rallied together and supported one another in response to this. And that's part of the idea of this kickoff event, is it's a way to engage a community in many ways that's very different than the one that was here 15 years ago. We've seen a lot of turnover, both in the internal community and a lot of the leadership roles. And so we're looking to really help this newer community, folks that are maybe newer to this area, to understand what it was that was so special about this community and how we came together after Tropical Storm Irene. So we know we only have about 10 minutes. I know that there are probably things that I forgot, so Ira and Josh, feel free to chime in with anything else. And we also want to create space for questions, because we know there certainly will be some.
Any questions? So you would propose closing the bridge from 3 to?
3 to 7 ballpark, yeah. Obviously, there would be some setup, and we're working to reach out to the State Patrol to look at getting, just traffic control. We know that creates a little bit more of a higher flow of traffic on Route 100 when Bridge Street is closed. And so that would be one component of it. One of our partners is the VG, so we're talking with them about potentially having a setup on the opposite side of the street so that people don't have to cross with as much frequency for them to be involved. So really trying to meet our partners where they're at. Some of those partners are just the local businesses. We've spoken to the Rotary, have an idea for some partnerships with the library. So we're really trying to bring in as many community partners as possible, knowing that a lot of those partners are going to be the groups that will help us host these events in the future as well, and have a lot of input, and we want them to have a say in what these community conversations around flood resilience look like.
I'm curious, are you going to be?
Clarifying question?
Go ahead, Marissa.
Oh, no, so I heard close the bridge, and I also heard close Bridge Street, and I just wanted to make sure that I understand what the actual perimeter of the closure looks like, where we're trying to have just pedestrians and how that will be demarcated. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure if I understood.
Yeah, what we're imagining is that there would be some type of road blockage where Bridge Street meets Route 100. And then, from previous bridge closures, I happen to live right near Bridge Street. Typically, there's a detour that's up by Joslyn Hill. So officially, that section of Bridge Street all the way down to the covered bridge on the, on what would be the east side of the bridge would remain open, but you wouldn't be able to pass through the bridge. So that we would detour traffic at Joslyn Hill.
Okay.
But we're imagining, and part of that with the conversation about alcohol is that we would have a very specific place that any bands would be playing, that there would be a fenced off area. We've been in conversation with Lawson's about serving, so looking at some of the liquor licensing and also working with some of the local businesses in case they want to be involved. Just wanting to make sure that we're covering all of our bases and not putting anybody in a precarious position by having, open containers or things of that nature.
Just like the Roundup.
Yeah,
Same thing. They have alcohol.
exactly, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a comment more than a question, but Waterbury's done a similar event, part of their carnival, I think it is. Doesn't have the same focus, but where they closed Stowe Street Bridge, and that's all walkable, open container. They've been doing it for at least a decade, and it's a really popular event. They keep doing it year after year. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm curious. Oh, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say my recollection from 15 years ago, the event that happened in early September 2011, that one, the bridge was closed because of the flooding related impact and things of that sort, and there was a band on sort of at the cover at that part of the bridge, and so honoring the work that's happened before, there's a little bit of a precedent. Again, that circumstance is very different, but honoring that in this way seemed to fit with what we are trying to meet here with this project.
I'm just curious, on the subsequent events, are you going to be working with the various emergency management coordinator folks from the different towns? As far as emergency response, it seems like it would be a really good opportunity to.
Yeah, and Franny reached out to Fred a little while back to approach that. She's on vacation now, so we haven't had that meeting, but we've had a number of conversations over 2 or 3 years. Josh and Ira and myself and Fred talking about emergency response, and obviously know that Mad River Valley has other emergency coordinators in different community or different towns. And then, not only would that be local partners, but also some regional partners. When we look at what Waterbury Crew does, when we look at some of the work in Montpelier that John Copans has been spearheading, there are things that we can learn from regionally that will impact and influence some of the decisions we make as a community and might help us along our path of creating some of these similar, groups and initiatives that can make us more resilient as a community.
I mean, I'll share that Fred, I think Brian and I have been talking, started a conversation of having an opportunity to sit at a table and talk about, real scenarios that could happen so that we're as prepared as possible. It's all in writing, but when it really happens, where are we, what are we doing, how are we doing it? And I mentioned that to Luke, and I was like, this could be another good example, because we talk about flooding all the time, but this would be another good example for us to talk about in that table, say, what would happen? What are the risks? What are, the scenarios that could go wrong? And how would Fred and Claire and the team of volunteers, et cetera, respond? And then also, just in terms of when I was talking to Luke, they're learning a lot and already know a lot, and they may want to be at the table anyway when we talk about flooding. And not necessarily the resilience part, well, obviously the resilience part, but in terms of emergency management, how are we going to respond?
Yeah. I mean, on that point, there's certainly emergency response and the recovery process, which, we've learned a lot from other communities over the past few years. But in terms of mitigation, part of this effort is also to help the community understand how various projects, everything from the Irisville Central Planning Project to, community wastewater, how those are in ways projects that relate to flood resilience. And that way hope to garner more support for those community initiatives because they understand where it fits in the big picture of how we can be more resilient as a community. So that it would be part of the effort as well.
A local hazard mitigation plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where it's all.
Do you have any other questions or any concerns with the idea?
You guys do a rain date? It turns out to be crappy weather on Thursday night.
That's a great question. We haven't broached that subject. We initially were looking at September 3rd, but then we sort of acknowledged that was competing with the Roundup Revival when we decided to push back. So we would we were looking at August.
Yeah, the week before
the week before that. So we pushed it back to the end of the Roundup Revival.
Yeah.
I think we would probably hesitate to do that at this point just because we're still galvanizing all of the various players and who's going to be involved. But I think that will certainly be a factor that we would consider. And I'm assuming it would probably just be 1 week later, so September 17th.
Yeah.
What is the threshold for requiring a public festival?
We will definitely want a public festival permit.
Okay.
I think 150.
So we would, it's not a big deal to fill out, but we would probably want, and I would imagine, would be happy to waive the fee.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Sorry.
This is another just quick observation, and I'm really glad that this is happening, and thank you for the work on this. I think that there's also potentially work that Stewart MRV and a couple of folks were talking about basically doing a Bridge Street cleanup, and I'm not sure if there's any dovetailing of this event with that potential effort, or I just wanted to throw out there that there have been folks who have been saying that they would love to do a Bridge Street cleanup type of event. That I think there's a note in the administrator's report about initially. So I don't know if that's an opportunity for folks to work together, or if that would be something that you just want to make sure that it's not competing.
Yeah.
But I just figured I'd throw that out there.
We've intentionally, thanks, Larissa. Historically, Stewart MRV has done a volunteer day with the high school in October to clean Bridge Street. I've already talked to Tom, and there's an email there with certain stakeholders to say we want to do a volunteer day, maybe on a Sunday, but acknowledging that we want it before the September 10th date so that it's clean and ready to go. And including you guys in the emails, I'm happy to do.
Thanks.
I think Josh may have been included anyway,
Yeah.
but
And we've been in touch with Kelly Mazer. They obviously own several of the buildings, I think, or maybe one of the big buildings. And she acknowledged sort of the brick cleanup that they were looking at engaging with, and So we're aware of some of that, and we just haven't had a chance to connect with her personally yet, but I think that is set to happen pretty soon. So we've been exchanging emails for a couple weeks.
We've been wanting to revise the festival permit for years now. One thing we want to add is, what would you do if something unfortunate happened? Do you have a safety plan in place? Who's going to call whom?
Yeah. It's a great question.
Maybe appoint a safety officer.
Yeah.
If you could add a paragraph on what your plan is.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. It was something that we, in the initial email that went out to both Mervis and the fire department, the conversation was both like, what does the bridge closure mean for you? And what would you need from us for an event of this nature? So I think we would be looking to engage, and we do, like Friends is involved with the triathlon, so we are coordinating with Mervis and Sugarbush Ski Patrol and a number of other groups around safety plans for events similar to this. So I think
Excellent.
that would be something that we would anticipate working on. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's great that you reached out.
Yeah.
That would have been our, first thing to suggest that you do, or
Yeah.
ask that you do.
Thanks.
So do we need to make a decision tonight, or wait till, is everybody okay with it?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's okay.
Is there an action that's needed?
I think it's okay. Why not? Why
think
can't
we-
we make an
Is there a
motion?
motion to close the bridge?
Which-
Do we want a time to be determined, but roughly 2:30 to 7:30? It's going to be clean up.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I checked sunsets like 7:04 on that day. So we were
Oh my gosh.
trying to figure out
On the 17th or the 10th?
on the 10th.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
But anyway, it's right after 7 o'clock and being in that window of time.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I can make that motion to allow for a closure of the Bridge Street and the covered bridge for, what's the name of your?
Irene at 15.
Irene at 15 event, pending receipt of a festival permit application.
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Hey.
And please keep us informed with the other modules as you come up with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're interested.
I'm sure that as soon as Franny is back, we'll set up another time to meet with you to talk about some of the contents of that email, just sort of
Yep.
other ways to be involved. And
Yep.
obviously, if anybody has any questions or ideas or suggestions, this is meant to be like collaborative as a community, and we'd love to have your involvement not only in this first event, but also in the future events, whether it's learning us beside us or helping to plan and co-host these events. We'd love that.
I'm just like, please welcome your, I personally keep working to say I want to be a partner
Yeah.
with all of these external stakeholders that are doing really important work in the community. And I don't want to get in the way, and by I mean the town. We just want to be there to help, create the most opportunity to have the best end result. And so if there's anything we can do, please let us know.
Great, thank you.
Great, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Good night.
thank you all.
Off to a rec district meeting.
Thank you.
I didn't chat with you.
And we were able to move you up earlier. That was good.
What's that? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Laura,
Yeah, am I like,
I'm sorry about that. I caught it everywhere.
What was that?
There was on
It's on our website. It says
the
6:30.
website, it
I looked at it.
says
So you weren't reminded 5 minutes before the meeting like I was? It's too bad.
that's true.
Not for me.
So let's go back up. Alice is on Zoom to CVRPC update with Alice Peel. Alice?
Yeah, I thought the meeting started at 6:30.
We started early tonight because we've got such a full agenda, so we're trying
Oh, okay.
to be as efficient as possible. And everybody did have an opportunity to receive your memo in the packet, so.
Terrific. Okay, I actually, I wish we had done this a little bit sooner, but bear with me, I've had some medical issues that keep distracting me from certain things, but we have discussed at CVRPC. I've discussed it with Christian Meyer, who's the executive director, that we'd like to see CVRPC reps from the town's municipalities actually do this kind of thing, check in with the select board and tell them what activities are going on and what CVRPC is doing for the towns. I mean, after all, we do pay some dues. Let me look. We are, right now, the dues to CVRPC from Waitsfield are $2,613.43, which was a $68 and change increase this year. I guess they do this by a formula that they have, $1.42 per capita. So there are towns that pay less than us and towns that pay more than us. But I looked at this memo, I reread it after I wrote it, and really what I did was I just dropped things on there of things that I've worked on with CVRPC. And I was like, wow, that's a lot of work. I think right now I put the big ones on top. And the big one was the local hazard mitigation plan. And you can read what we did there. Our next one would be due in 2029. We were late, so this became a really hot priority. I worked with Fred Messer on this. Also, some reps from the Friends of the Mad River came in on this to discuss what we thought were the highest priority hazards that Waitsfield would face. Fluvial erosion and inundation flooding were the top two. And we did that by a ranking system. Anyhow, Keith Cubbin was the CVRPC rep that actually did the heavy lifting on this. CVRPC had grant money for this program, so I jumped on it right away and got us first in line for Keith's attention. This again was great because it was funded by his work is funded by CVRPC, and it didn't cost Waitsfield any money to get this done, which it was a good deal because, Fred, what do you think? This took us about a year to do?
Yeah, once we got, because we had to do the RFP and
Right.
hire Keith and everything. Yeah, and I really appreciate, Alice, that you did jump on this mitigation plan to get it rolling because it was stagnating.
It was, yeah.
And-
So the next one will be 2029. And what came out of the local hazard mitigation plan was a look at some floodplain reconnection projects that could happen. And 4 were identified. 3 were Austin parcel, the Tardy parcel, which is now another name, correct? Lower Fairgrounds, and then there's a flood chute at Tremblay Road, which is on the Kenyon property that we still could look at. It's just not working anymore, and we could reconnect that. But the first 3, what I did was, I'm also on the Winooski Basin Water Quality Committee. That's a municipal, I'm the town municipal rep on that. And I wound up talking with Brian Voigt, who is the staff person that runs this program. And I said, was there any way that money that's just sitting there in this program that we're dying to get grants for? I asked people, we have money, do you think you can use it? And I asked him, what this program does is it really works on phosphorus reduction. So the idea is you get a project that would have a certain ranking for the amount of phosphorus reduction that would go into the river and eventually into Lake Champlain. And I looked at it and said, yeah, but what about if we reconnected one of these areas that look like we could do floodplain mitigation to mitigate flooding, and then the water would be less flowing into the Mad River. Could we do phosphorus reduction and get a side benefit of reducing inundation flooding? And that we went for it, and we got our first grant, which has been completed, which was a look at, yeah, is this possible? Where is the most phosphorus reduction? That grant, this again, is money that's just sitting there with no town match. So this is money we can just use. We had a meeting. The one area that came out that was the one with the most potential is at the lower fairgrounds. And I think the road crew also talked with Keith about that, about looking at reducing flooding there. And that's what we're looking at now. We just increased an $18,000 grant that we got for the next phase of the project to really design and engineer a possible floodplain reconnection at the fairgrounds. And we increased that last week to $36,000. And that way, Brian had a good idea. We want to bring in more stakeholders. We're going to need the town involved. We're also working with the Conservation Commission on this, and Friends of the Mad River. Brian Voigt's the staff person who is in charge of this. And we got that higher amount approved because we wanted more time to make sure that we had all stakeholders involved and that we had more time for a complete proposed engineering design. And again, that's no match for the town. That's money.
Is this the same
that's
project
available.
that Brian Voigt
Yes.
presented
yeah.
a few months ago?
It's
Yes.
maybe
Thank
lowering
you.
the land to increase the.
Yeah.
So this has been before us, Alice, and I appreciate you reminding us CVRPC's role. I guess I just want to make, we can go through this kind of high elevation as quickly as possible because we've got some pretty big agenda items ahead of us tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with what I'm going to say here. The details of this project with high elevation, et cetera, is really a Brian Voigt question.
Yeah.
And Water Consulting, who would be given the contract. We also had Ned Swanberg and Lincoln Fresca from CVRPC helped out with the Planning Commission to go over the new river corridor bylaws that are necessary. And again, that was, the CVRPC does that work as part of the grant money that they have. And so the PC is all set with what they need to do now for those bylaws. Route 117, very quickly, I'll tell you, entire CVRPC is on it, trying to move it along. We're not really hearing anything about it, but we're putting it again as a priority on the planning initiative for this year, which we're going to submit to VTrans. Right now, what Keith Cubbin and Ruben McMartin and Christian Meyer, the executive director, are doing is really trying to find the high-level person at VTrans that could help us move this forward. So that's the work they're doing for us with that. Meadow Road Bridge, it was really Keith that first brought the condition of the bridge with us. And I think we know most about everything going on with Meadow Road Bridge now. York's doing a great job with that. One thing that I just wanted to remind everybody about is, and it should be happening right now, is another yearly, our inspections on this bridge are now yearly, so we should have one coming up. It should be happening now.
Yep.
I was looking at the dates. And we can verify. Well, what'll happen is they'll release the findings fairly soon after the inspection.
It's V-Trans doing the inspection, right?
It's V-Trans inspection. The head of the program is Sven Scribner, who had been really helpful to Keith and Fred and I in meetings about it.
When V-Trans asks to use Meadow Road Bridge for the Moretown replacement, they will have recently.
Yeah, this sound, yeah. That was what I was going to say. The important thing to know was I was chatting with Keith last week, and he said, "You're not going to believe this, but I was on an email thread, and I'm reading through it, and V-Trans is talking about using Meadow Road Bridge as the detour when they put in the Moretown, the permanent Moretown."
We're going to be talking about that later this meeting.
Yeah, I know, but keep in mind, Keith is all over that one. He said, "I'm not sure you really want to do this." So
It might cost.
Keith is on all the email threads.
Emails already.
Actually,
They're aware.
when Keith told me about it, I started laughing, only because that's the only response I could come up with.
That is
So, and he agrees. I mean, leverage it. See if V-Trans will pick up the price of putting the temporary bridge in.
That was my thought.
Yeah. So Keith and York can stay in touch on that one. I just find out about it all because I ask, "Can you?" And I kind of go, "How about this and how about that?"
Now, York's had some conversations, is on
Yes,
with V-Trans.
Yeah, and I think Keith and York have talked too. But
And Josh Schwartz.
yeah, holy mackerel, that one just I found funny, but it's not really. And the last thing, our Green Mountain, not Green Mountain Transit, Green Mountain Power Substation, all of the permits and approvals are in place. And that was Act 250. We've got the permits from A&R, from Shannon Morrison. Sam Lash at CVRPC has followed this one through. And the Project Review Committee at CVRPC has followed this project and said yes, is supporting it. I'm on that Project Review Committee also.
And that's a really big project, really about 20 years in the making. So
Yeah,
I'm glad
that's-
that you have the eyes and ears on it, Alice. That's great.
Yeah. That one's been around for a while, yeah. Could be 20 years. Okay, and the last thing I'll talk about briefly, because you will be inundated on this coming up. I chair the Regional Plan Committee at CVRPC, which I'll toot my own horn here or look for sympathy. It's one of the hardest committees I've had to chair. And where we are at now is everything that we needed to submit to the LURB, the Land Use Review Board, for what they're calling a pre-application, which looks at what we got and then they review it with us, make suggestions, etc. We got that all submitted, and the meeting with the Land Use Review Board directors is tomorrow. First, they're going on a site visit. They're going to Barry, Berlin, and Plainfield, I believe, and maybe some part of Montpelier. And then there's a sit-down meeting at CVRPC to review all the documents that we got together and sent in. And that would be also including a not quite final draft of the future land use map and a not quite final draft of the new regional plan. But what we did have to do was make sure we were addressing all of the particular state statutes we're responsible for addressing in our regional plan.
Alice, did the CVRPC share the future land use map with the planning commission? The draft?
Yes, and all of that, I think I've sent the emails, I'll make sure you have it again, it's all up on the CVRPC website.
Yeah.
Yes, we did, and I believe Christian was just there at their last meeting to do another presentation. And I know that Brian was in Facein, and CVRPC reps are now going to all of the municipalities and towns to present again on the pieces of this future land use map, Tier 1B, Tier 1A, etc. And what we are asking for right now is look at that future land use map. I have reviewed the Waitsfield piece, and I generally think that it's good. It kind of aligns, I felt it aligned with the Irisburg municipal plan also, though there might be fewer parcels that were committed to development in the future land use map. But in terms of the regional plan, future land use map, and anything about, I know the Planning Commission really wants to go for Tier 1B, we need a letter or comments to CVRPC by September 1st, so we can review those comments, and so can the LURB. We're working on a very compressed schedule right now. Everything got moved up, our deadlines, by 60 days. So we're looking at the beginning of October for the final drafts of these documents. We have to have it all in place and approved by December 30th or 31st. And I think our regional plan committee is going to decide to not disband after everything's submitted. We're going to continue work on the regional plan even after the final submission. So go up to CVRPC site.
Yeah.
I'll send you all another email on all the ins and outs of seeing it. And I'll send you the website for the Land Use Review Board so you can follow their schedule along also. We will have public hearings coming up, both the LURB and CVRPC. I think that's about it. There's a bunch of other odds and ends and miscellaneous that CVRPC does for us. And like when you put out the RFP for the bridge, Ruben McMartin and Keith picked that up and also contacted contractors, engineering firms they knew. They knew some smaller ones also.
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank
So-
you, Alice. Thanks for all your work with the region.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think we get a lot for our $2,000 dues.
Well, I think one of the reasons is because you're there, beating the bushes. We appreciate that.
Oh, thank you.
Very much so.
Yeah. agreed.
Yeah, Well, I like free money. That's me.
Will do. Okay, well,
Thanks,
All
Alex.
right, that's me. Sorry I didn't come in, but
no problem. How's your back?
I go into UVM tomorrow for, Fred and I have been commiserating on this as with his pain and my pain. So I go back in tomorrow for another scary injection thing, but I'll let you know.
Okay, all right, thanks.
All right, and thank
Best of
you all.
luck.
for
Thanks,
listening.
Oz.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm wondering if are we expecting somebody from the
I
Conservation
don't know, I
Commission?
kind of thought so, I'm happy to just really touch on it quickly, or we can put it on next time. I think it's okay either way, whatever you prefer.
Why don't you give a,
I'll give like a really, it's in the town administrator report, and the meeting packet has the plan. This was, I think, the 7th iteration. You know, we talked about it over a year ago. Charlie Hosford had put, you know, in an application for ARPA money. But now, with 2,000 ash trees in the town's right away, approximately, I think there's been at least 3 locations that have been identified in Waitsfield in just the last 2 months that have ash borer. Some trees have been cut down on Common Road, and there's some that we highly, most likely are ash trees that have EAB. So, you know, this is good timing. Basically, what this is a watch and wait policy. It's been reviewed by 2 people from the state. They liked it. Essentially, what it is, you know, wastewater is going to actually remove multiple of these ash trees on the Main Street corridor. After that, we just want to say, okay, you know, are there some that we know we want to save and not risk? You know, if that 0.5% might show that some may make it and be resistant to EAB. And that the goal is to have someone in-house that can treat some of these trees with insecticide, but there is a true cost to that. And then I think the other main part of this report is to just call out what we know and that we really need a tree warden. We don't have one. We've quite actively looked for one, and so far we have not been able to find one. At some point, there's been a little conversation of, does the time come that we should put a stipend on it, like we do for the animal control officer, as an example, and we might be getting close to that point, because the state laws are actually pretty fierce in terms of what we are allowed to do without a tree warden. The select board can act as the tree warden, and I think we're getting close to saying we might just have to do that. I mean, really, like, we're not allowed to cut a tree down in the right of way without a tree warden that actually says so. A lot of this is also just education in terms of what we do for our public property that's out of the right of way, like weed edges, for example, and also trying to come up with a plan to educate the public with their own forest management.
I guess as I read the plan, Leo was not usually supportive of inoculation, but I think we ought to consider it once we figure out what the wastewater plan is going to be for some of the key village trees. But his position is, don't go preemptively removing the trees, wait until they're a hazard, and ultimately the hope is that there's going to be a resistant, you know, strain of them out there that's going to survive, and that will, by letting it run its course, will hopefully find out that we'll have some ash trees in the future. So, is that?
That's right. I mean, I still think this allows for the place to have a team of people, a tree warden, maybe someone from the select board, someone from the Conservation Commission, you know, walk Main Street and say, you know, this is a tree that we're not really willing to lose, and this is one that we want to inoculate. And then the other point of this that is talked about, but we don't really have a budget to deal with what's coming. Again, we have 2,000 ash trees in the right of way, and there's going to be a true cost to the town when the emerald ash borer is here in full force. So, well, I suspect at budget time we're going to have to bring that up. I personally think this is a really good first phase for an EAB plan.
But it's not prescriptive at the point of saying this tree stays, this tree goes, and that gives us the flexibility to.
I think we really need to be monitoring this really tightly, because we could get in a situation where this disease hits a bunch of trees all at once, and the resources available to remove the dead trees are scarce. They're
Agreed.
overworked. We just need some really close monitoring,
And this-
so we don't get into a pinch situation with.
I fear that's gonna happen anyway, but I agree. This plan basically says, let's make sure the road crew
Yeah.
is as educated as possible, because they're the eyes and ears
Yeah.
on the ground, and they're driving every street like every day.
Yep.
So make sure they know what they're looking for. We're gonna talk about 3 trees, maple trees at the library park, and maybe next. But Adam Whitney, when I met with him, he's like, there's trees right up the road that I'm confident have EAB. And nobody had pointed those out to me, but he sees them from a mile away, you know? And the hope will be that our road department can do the same.
Do folks feel comfortable acting on this without having Leo or Kurt or somebody else from the Conservation Commission here?
Yeah, can I ask a question? So the treatment and inoculation, that if a tree is not genetically immune, that continues to happen on a certain schedule, right? In order
For
it to-
years.
Okay.
I think until the EAB runs its course and there's no more food for it and they're not around anymore.
And-
So it would be a long time.
Makes
Yeah.
sense. And then what happens if there is EAB detected in a tree and it's a tree that people want to keep? Can you then treat it and it goes away, or?
I think by the time you realize there's EAB in it, it's too late, is my understanding.
That's what I think we should clarify that.
Because usually by the time you see, you're like, oh, that has EAB, it's been there for a few years. Don't quote me the few
Well,
years,
it's
but it's been there,
internal.
it's.
Underneath
done
the
a lot
bark,
of damage.
Yeah, so
But is there a
part of this, if there are ones we really don't want to lose, then we would have to take more aggressive action.
As soon as possible. Yep.
Is there a public education element to this where we could get citizen scientists out there telling us which trees they think are
The
infected?
Conservation Commission basically, if I remember correctly, in the plan identifies themselves as wanting to spearhead the education campaign.
Great.
And I don't know if they'll have a subcommittee or they just want to do it, but yeah, the plan talks about it.
I mean, if they could give just a little bit of much of attention as they're giving to the other invasives, that would be really helpful. They've done an excellent job with knotweed.
Agreed. I mean, I think this
I
is,
think especially given the potential hazard that trees that are affected by EAB pose once they are infected, because it's pretty clear that removing an infected or dead tree is both more difficult and more dangerous, and I think potentially more expensive.
definitely.
Definitely more expensive.
So yes, I concur.
A healthy ash tree is kind of tricky to cut down, much less a diseased one. They really are.
Yeah, they're dangerous.
I'm just gonna, I'm gonna repeat
Had
it
them
again.
twist
We
around
have-
and do all sorts of.
We have approximately 2,000 ash trees in our right of way, and I think over 99% die from emerald ash borer. That is, a tree to cut down costs several $1,000s.
Yeah.
So, let that hit home.
If we let it run its course, there'll be a per tree cost of cutting it down.
I guess.
And we need to figure out what the cheapest we could inoculate.
When we repaved East Warren Road, how many trees did we take down? We actually got a very good deal.
Very good. We took out quite a few.
Yeah.
It was only a few $1,000s, I think.
So, I mean, not all, these aren't all huge trees.
That's true.
So I don't think they're all going to be, I mean, it'll be expensive, but.
I think Montpelier just hired a local arborist to take out all of the, I
East
think they
Montpelier
literally
did.
took out every single one.
East Montpelier did, I know that. I don't know if Montpelier, yeah.
I
East
think
Montpelier
it-
did over a year ago.
Yeah, it was a huge job.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't want to watch it, we know the expense is going to go up, and they just, I guess, figured out the finances. This is a very different policy, but, this is a very well thought out policy, in my opinion. And again, the state, one person from Land Trust and one person from the state reviewed it, and overall very much agreed with it.
there's a small ray of hope. New York is having some success with introducing the Russian wasp, which attacks the emerald ash borer.
Which we have here. We have them in Facein.
The wasp?
Russian.
The wasps.
Yeah, they had
They have been
a
identified in
demonstration.
Vermont?
They were doing a study where they did it over on the wildlife management area off of Tucker Hill on the way up
Okay.
and over to Enchanted Forest.
Yeah? And they found some?
No, they introduced the wasp
Introduced them?
there. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
I think they did several spots around the state, but in the Enchanted Forest area, Tucker Hill is one of the sites they did. That may have been over a year ago they placed them.
I just hope we don't find out that the Russian wasp
I
is.
know.
Ding ding.
Yeah.
I was gonna say sometimes the introduction of another species to take care of one is just, yeah.
Well, they studied it pretty in depth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read the plan again, and I think it is flexible and contemplates some of the stuff we've been talking about.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I'd make a motion to approve, thank you, give us.
I have one in there.
Where is it? Yeah, I move that the select board adopt the emerald ash borer in Waitsfield, Vermont, a situation analysis and response plan as recommended by the Waitsfield Conservation Commission.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Now,
Great.
it's our job to find a tree warden, right? Or
Yes, so Leo did have someone in mind.
Didn't work.
Didn't work, okay. It was a Facein resident.
Yeah, they were not interested.
Okay. We should advertise again, or I think advertising's not gonna do it, we should actually
I think,
give some thought, maybe see if the Conservation Commission might get some
Lake
ideas.
tried. And
Yeah,
I've had a couple conversations, and it's just, I think it's a big job.
I mean, given that,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, is there a clear, I mean, if we've advertised, there's a clear scope of work somewhere that people can reference?
Yep.
I realized that if I was gonna go and ask people to consider doing this, I don't actually know what the full scope of work is, and I wouldn't know where to show them.
I can try to just find that website, and I can share it with, the select board.
Or just people who are interested, I don't know.
I think the idea of the stipend is,
yeah.
That's what I was just thinking,
Very
you know.
good.
Yeah.
We have this previous scope of work with whatever the tree warden has been needing to do in recent years, and this is gonna add a good amount on top of that.
It's a huge job. I mean, you basically still volunteering, just like how you guys volunteer. I mean, a stipend is
Yeah.
nothing, but maybe it's
It's a
something.
little something.
Yeah.
that would be for next year, so we could budget it next year.
Mhm.
Do we need a motion? No?
I don't think at this
No.
point, but
Not yet,
if
but
we could I think we could come
I'll
up with the money.
express
if
my
we needed to.
intention to support a stipend for the tree warden. But that's not a binding.
Larissa, in response to your question, technically, a forester doesn't have to be the person to do it, but I think usually it's a forester for many obvious reasons. And when you see this, the law, it's a forester job.
I recall Fred saying that at one point, the scope of work was more manageable than its current
Yeah, about 4
date.
years ago.
And that was part of the reason that we lost the tree warden that we had, was that it was a significant increase, and I don't know if that significant increase in duties included this also very significant.
Yeah, about 4
Increased
years ago,
duties.
the statute was updated for the first time since 1904. So the 1904 statute was much more limited than what was envisioned more recently. So, okay, let's,
Yeah.
Wastewater project update. Josh, are you gonna?
Well, I think York's going to take the lead, but I'm here
Yeah,
for this
well, let's go
discussion.
up and join
Yeah.
us.
I just, I don't want to draw this out. There's a bunch in the administrative report There's a lot of action right now in wastewater. And I'll leave some of it to the easement part, but in terms of the project manager, I think we're well in the timeline of when a municipal project manager is needed. Part of it is the planning district has been a huge coordinator for this project, and the expectation can't remain as we move to bidding and move to contract and move to construction. I want to acknowledge again that the planning district and Josh Schwartz, this project wouldn't have happened without them. And I don't think, hopefully again, I'm speaking for them, but that I don't think they're going anywhere, but for a large percentage of their time, I don't foresee that happening in the future. Our staff, we're pretty, we don't have the capacity to take on what is needed moving forward. And really simply, you know, having someone on the team that knows wastewater and knows how to be a good project manager, fill out paperwork, and we're working on creating a scope of work, which is basically what the question is today. You know, to the select board, are you comfortable with our wastewater team coming up with a scope of work and beginning advertising a job that may be a team of people, maybe one person that can take on that municipal project manager job?
I think those are two separate asks. So I feel comfortable with the scope of work question, but I think once we have a scope of work, the advertising for it, I think we'd need to, I mean, I agree that it needs to happen soon. I think that advertising for a job that we don't know, have we like budgeted for it? Do we know what we would be willing to offer?
No, I think that's a good point. I mean, partially, I think we're going to be able to, we're hoping to be able to put it into the PCS, which will allow it to be more fundable by other means.
Yeah, PCS is the project cost summary, and if the town were to hire a project manager or hire a consultant to act as project manager, that would be a allowable expense that we could use grant and loan funding to cover. So it wouldn't necessarily come out of the town budget. Like, we wouldn't have to come up with money from the town budget. We would likely need to roll that into a loan, and eventually we have to pay off the loan, so it's not free, but it wouldn't be an immediate budget impact.
You know, I don't see going ahead with the wastewater project without it. I just don't.
I agree.
I say York is doing a lot of work, a lot of different things, and this can't be.
JB's doing a lot of work.
JB's doing a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of people doing.
I'm doing a lot of work.
Way above and beyond.
I mean, the truth is,
Bob is doing a lot of
this would
work.
have happened months ago if JB wasn't able to step up, and which he did. And I agree with you, Larissa. I mean, coming up with a scope of work, and that's the way I phrased it, is, you know, our team needs to come up with a scope of work. And then the reason I'm feeling a little urgency is I kind of wish we had done this a month ago. I mean, the goal is to have someone in place if we can find the right person. And finding the right person is very important, but have the person in place as soon as possible. We are preparing to go out for bid very soon. We'll spend a little more time talking about it in a minute. But the sooner we have them closer to when we go out for bid and before we are ready to review bids and sign a contract, will be really, really impactful to a better project.
Yep.
So I'm okay, you know, with whatever the select board wants to do, and if right now the task is just making a scope of work, that's okay and understandable. But the more we can feel a little urgency with this, not panicked, but urgency, I think would be really good.
Well, how about developing a scope of work and advertisement and a scope of, and a not as much a scope of work as a job description that includes salary, and it could be part-time. It could be part-time sometime, and it could be flexible.
My guess is some weeks could be 8 hours, some weeks could be 25 hours is my guess.
I don't think it's a full-time job.
No, I don't either.
Yeah.
Well, and now that I understand the sort of funding mechanism for this, I'm less concerned. I thought it was something that we would be making I thought we were going to be authorizing you to create a scope of work and then also do something budgetarily that we haven't discussed.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a permanent job, so.
Right.
Yeah, which I'm not sure we've discussed this either, but that could lend itself to, rather than hiring an individual, hiring a consulting firm, one of their staff that provides that service, which may be maybe more available, frankly, than a part-time. Part-time maybe it's a good one.
I don't remember what his background was, but Henry Erickson did the water project.
No, yeah, I don't know what his background is,
No.
but yeah, he did a really great job and moved a lot of those pieces forward on behalf of the town.
And I mean, there were several iterations of what I wrote in the town administrator report, and I thank Josh for, helping me work through it, and just the whole wastewater team to come up with the way we phrase this conversation. And I think we're getting close. And the other thing besides the scope of work is what the cost will be, so we can put that in the PCS, so that can be part of what the state sees, and that's going to be really important. And I think the team, if the select board allows it, part of coming up with scope will be coming up with an approximate cost.
Well, our next meeting is August 10th. Is it allowable to, say, go ahead and make these materials and then share them with us at the earliest date? If there's not substantive discussion that needs to be had, can we approve it over email, or do we need to wait for the next one?
I think that's fine, but you're right. I mean, August 10th is not that far. It's going to take a little bit of time. If it's okay for us to, find a cost that's most likely to put that in the PCS, doing that sooner or later, I think is pretty important.
Yeah.
And basically, by August 10th, maybe say we're going to have somewhat of an idea of what the, employment ad would look like. RFP, it wouldn't be an RFP, what would that be called?
RFQ.
It might be an RFQ,
Yeah, that's what the water one
qualifications.
was.
So I think that would be reasonable, because it will take a couple weeks for our team to come up with a pretty concise
Yeah, so that's a couple of
scope.
weeks.
And then we'd have to, I know there's interest from another stakeholder that would like to be part of the hiring committee. So, does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah,
So
I think-
we'll take it up on the 10th and be ready, likely to push it out on the 11th.
Okay, so we're okay with what I just said, come up with an approximate cost and come up with a scope of work and a job ad, basically.
Yeah, but I think that's ready to go to Grant, basically, as soon as everybody's taken a look and said.
Okay.
Yeah, but I appreciated how diplomatically you needed to put it, but the reality is we need this. So, let's
It
go.
would have been great a month or two ago.
I mean, the project is in this moment of this transition from the planning stages into the, the implementation piece. And so having some, there's definitely a need already, and there will be increasingly as these responsibilities shift.
And I'm comfortable moving on to easement part. And do you want to take it? Josh, do you want to take it, or do you want me to take it?
Take which?
The easement, just talk about easement and probably the bidding a little bit, and the contracts.
Yeah.
I'll just
Go
say
ahead.
that, I'll start because, easements are complicated. We do know the truth that easements do not have to be signed before we go out for bid. They do have to be signed before the contract is signed. I'll keep it simple like that. I did hear today, this evening, that we do expect to get the easements next week, which is from SP&F attorneys.
This is a draft easement from the lawyer.
Yep. Which is a very important
Okay,
step.
so this is, we expect to have the language on the forms. They haven't been distributed or signed, so it's okay.
That's right,
But there's
but
been pre-work done.
a lot of work. Yeah, like part of the reason there's been a pause is because we didn't have a project manager. JB took up a lot of that first efforts, December, January, February. And then it took a long time to get NEMRIC on the cloud. If you remember, the select board voted to do that months ago. That finally happened in June. SP&F didn't really want to start until we were on the cloud because they do land records for each place. And I mean, the easement should be ready to sign, I hope. Because there's a question of easements and timeline, when we go out for bid, I'm trying to keep it simple so that we don't take forever. There's two bids, there's two contracts. Contract one is the treatment facility, the MUD site off Kingsbury Road. and leach field, and then contract 2 is everything else. So right now, because there's some questions of easements and the question of how much time it's going to take to get easements signed, our current thinking is we may go out for bid with the first contract as soon as end of August. That would be open for a month, and then there'd be a bid opening. And then the hope would be about a month after the end of August, so the end of September, we'd go out for bid for the contract 2, which is everything else. Pump stations, main, gravity line, the majority of the
Connections to
projects.
each individual property.
Connection.
Because there are no easements required for contract 1 because the town owns the property, so that and the project and the facility has received some very important approvals recently from the Wastewater Investment Division at Agency of Natural Resources. So that is pretty much in the place where it'll be ready to go. But the easements are tied to contract 2. Then again, the mains, the pump stations, and then the connections along the way.
And that was all over the place, mostly because my mind has been on the town garage a lot. Josh, do you want to fill in any gaps that are important for this conversation?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think when it comes to easements, so there's, as I just mentioned, there's kind of 3 different types. There are the mains, the force main and the gravity main. There are the pump stations, for which we've had in-depth conversations and with the property owners of all of those pump stations. And then there are the individual connections. And in some cases, there's multiple versions of those with the same property. But specifically the mains, there are, I calculated, about 14 or so properties that have easements for which, for one reason or another, an easement's required for that main, for which those properties aren't otherwise connecting to the project. So those are kind of the priority folks to talk to because the amount of communication with them has been limited to this point because it hasn't been required, and we've been triage and prioritizing things, but focusing on those properties without individual connections and identifying a process for which how the town is going to be meeting with those is sort of like the next step. But having these easements in hand next week, that's great news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And again, the project manager, the sooner they're on, I think, will be very helpful for everything we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And most of the landowner outreach has been JB.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody loves JB, so it's pretty easy. But Josh is right. I mean, there are certain properties we've had very limited conversations with at best
Yeah.
because they're not connecting.
And let me just explain the reason why they're the nature of those easements. The nature of those easements is that the main, primarily those related to the mains. So the force main between Irisville and the Munn site travels along primarily the east side of Route 100. As it travels along the east side of Route 100, it is in the right of way almost exclusively, but there's places where the alignment is and the right of way close to a property line. And so for construction or maintenance or other things there's a need for access, and that's the nature of those easements. So they're not major in nature, but having those conversations with those property owners, explaining what's entailed, like here are the design plans and this shows where that is, and I think spending time working with those property owners to talk through and hear any concerns that they might have and such, I think is a really important next step and is something that hasn't received the attention yet.
Yeah. Is it true that most of those 14 properties are temporary easements? Require temporary?
No.
For the construction, or some are?
Yeah, so
permanent?
so originally we had this conversation of temporary versus permanent and came to the conclusion that most of them are most likely going to be temporary in nature because they're related to construction, but also wanting to ensure there's room for access if there's ever a need for maintenance. So I think there are some temporary easements, but Du Bois and King identified and sort of moved most of them into the permanent category,
Okay.
just to ensure that there's access going
Yeah.
forward. But it's things like the pipe is running along the road and the right-of-way is not a straight line, and it kind of goes like this, and the pipe is a straight line, and then there's an area here that's approximately 6 to 8 feet out for that area. So that's the nature of those.
We're not
kinds.
asking it to go down through the middle of anybody's property. It's all-
Correct.
That's right.
And V-Trans was clear they didn't want it going through the middle of their property either. So trying to find that middle ground,
It
which
never
is
touches Route 100.
correct. The travel lane.
Actually, another reason easements are important is because we don't touch Route 100, we have to do borings under Route 100. And anytime there's a boring, there's a pretty big square on each side of Route 100, and that creates a need for an easement because you can't, you have to have an entry place that's pretty big, 10 foot
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So that's another reason.
And under the river as well, in addition to going underneath the road.
And the one high-functioning wetland.
Correct. And, yeah, boring underneath a wetland.
Where's that?
There's two.
There's two
There's one
between
right here.
Oh, yes, you're right. So there's one here, and there's at least one, if, maybe there's two.
On the east side of Route 100.
Yeah.
And by here, we mean Old County Road.
Yes. Good point.
So no action there, though.
No.
It's exciting,
I mean, we're in,
in a frightening way.
we're moving fast right now. And we're lucky to have Du Bois and King and the state. I mean, the state's a remarkable partner. So we're very fortunate.
On our meeting, for our 2+ hour meeting that we had today, our regular every 2-week meeting, there were 3 members from the state staff that were on that call, and they were all very useful and very helpful. And it's, I remember when we started these, it was like we would talk about things and then be like, okay, so we have to follow up with these 3 people at the state, and that sometimes could take a while. So having that resource in the room when we're having these discussions and having them hear what we're talking about and getting really quick responses is really incredible. So yeah, they're a fantastic partner.
I'm good.
Josh, you got anything to?
No, second, everything said.
We'll get there.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks all.
So, I mean,
Thank you, Josh.
thanks
Thank you.
for everything.
Yes, quite.
And
My pleasure.
And I'll
let's
say,
just make sure, well, the steering committee
thank you.
is our,
Yeah,
Waitsfield is the chair and vice chair.
that is correct. So,
Well, we should make sure that.
The vice chair's in the room.
Thanks to the rest of the steering committee for all of the commitment they made,
Yes.
the planning district has made to this project.
well, I remember when we started this conversation 3.5 years ago, trying to identifying what the need was and trying to figure this out, and the Waitsfield Selectboard made a request of the planning district explicitly for a year to start. And at the conclusion of that year, the select board wrote a letter expressing its appreciation because it is a fair amount of resources being focused on a particular project for an extended period of time. And so, as you can imagine, the district's trying to balance a variety of different things across the valley. So I do appreciate the support of the planning district steering committee broadly. And yeah, hopefully the proof's in the pudding. That's worth it.
It's going to benefit the whole valley.
Yeah.
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 Thanks all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Josh.
So Jocelyn Library Park Trees.
I can, pretty quickly,
If folks read the,
I don't need to say anything if you read it and you're ready to say what you would think.
Having been through something very similar with 2 very old maple trees, I can say that pruning, you don't save it. They're basically in hospice care right now. It's like, it's not if they die, it's when, I think, is the read I got, at least.
No, that's exactly.
And so I'm personally in favor of just going ahead and taking them out, but that's me.
I just want to say, I had kind of hoped that the road department could maybe prune it and then we could budget for it adequately. They just don't have the capacity. They can't get everything done that they have to get done. They are willing to do the traffic control if the board chooses to have them removed right now. Again, the library board's been pretty concerned about the dead limbs being over the park and being over the sidewalk. on the library property. So it's been brought to my attention twice by the library board and the library director, which is why it's before you. Again, Josh and the crew are happy to do the flagging because it's gonna be pretty early in the morning, and they, Anna Whitney's crew is pretty fast. I think this is a very, considering stump grinding, $6,000 is really quite good.
Yeah, I think we should do the stump grinding and get more trees in there
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, the plan would be we have money for street trees and to replant them as soon as possible. Unfortunately, those are not very old trees, but maple trees, it turns out, are just not best for street trees. for
They're
multiple
not a
reasons.
good street tree.
And so the goal would be to plant something else that's more adequate.
Does the town road crew, have they had the flagger training?
I know they do flagging.
Have they
That's
had
not
the
what he
training?
does.
That's not the question.
That's why my answer was meant to be a little funny.
Yeah, I think if they're doing flagging in the middle of Route 100, they have to have the flaggers course.
Yeah, I guess most of their flagging is on much less busy roads.
Yeah.
Flagging on Route 100
Town
in
roads.
morning rush hour would be not a lot of fun. I'm also thinking this is their busiest time of year, and do we really want to put this on them to save $600?
Yeah, that's my feeling as well.
They are very busy.
Yeah, I just assume
And
keep them focused on what they're good at and not put them in harm's way.
I agree with that.
Yep.
Where are we paying for this? How?
Don't ask me. We have no money for it.
That's not my
That's, I mean,
Just
no,
fold the quotes
we have
together.
little things pop up and there's
No, I just wondered,
leniency
we
in
have a
our
street,
budget.
what did we have in the street tree reserve? I'm looking.
Like there are little projects that come up.
No, I know.
Yeah, but this one's a little more costly than others, which is why I was trying to figure out a way to maybe just prune it. But Adam was clear, paying him to prune it right now when they are actively dying would just, you
Yeah,
know.
we don't need a bunch of branches coming down during story hour or anything like there.
That's a good example, Brian.
So street trees, showing a budget of 30 grand at the end of FY '26.
A balance?
Balance in the reserve account of 30,000.
Do you want to
31,000.
want to use the street trees for the removal? I'm okay with that. That's-
I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what
Concerning
it's,
street trees.
that's what it's
It
for,
is.
right?
Yeah,
That's-
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I just made this decision for a maple also, and I chose to remove it, so.
I just want to share that apparently there's new elm trees that are being grown in Vermont that I just think is wicked awesome. And what an exciting street tree that would be.
Yeah.
There was the Liberty Elm. I'm not sure if it really, there was an effort. Liberty Elm was supposedly resistant. I had one on my property that died, but after many years.
Yeah, we planted elms there, and they've survived, but they're super slow growing.
Yeah.
They
How
take,
are they?
it'll be.
Not a great street tree.
Your grandchildren we appreciate it, no, not your
Well, the
children.
oaks have been doing really well.
I like oaks because they are so good for so many different critters.
Great street tree.
Yeah.
And if you'll look out there, if you ever walk, if nobody mows their grass along, oaks are growing everywhere.
Yeah.
Little oaks.
And I'll just, I think it's an oak in front, there's maybe two in front of the town office, and I think they were planted after it was built, and they're pretty nice size.
Yeah.
Like, and that's only been 10 years.
Yeah, cool.
We'll figure that out. Let the tree board.
Yeah, our new tree warden can make a recommendation.
Yeah. So, motion to go ahead with the Whitney proposal, including flagging to be funded through the street tree reserve fund.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Great. So on to the town garage.
We're flying through this agenda.
Do you
This
want
one
me
will
to
be
say a
quick.
lot, or do you want me to say a little?
So I've got a lot to say about B and C, but let's
Yeah.
deal with the phase 2.
Well, the Phase 2 environmental, KAS did a Phase 1. It was a couple $1,000s. They identified multiple things that are, need to be explored more to realize where we are in the timeline and what the risk is. Those main things are finding the old septic, finding where the drain in the middle of the garage goes to, checking the soils for the fire that had happened in the 80s/90s. There's some
I don't remember that. I guess it happened. but-
I don't have a strong recognition of it, but
Which, did it burn a building down?
About half of the current one burnt down and they rebuilt it. And then the other main thing is there was somewhat of a dump site for maybe decades.
well, the
So-
dump is more over to where that house is,
Yeah.
on that bank.
That's my understanding as
So
well.
that's
Towards Spalding.
But they-
That's where the
That's
dump
the
was.
back side of the lot?
Yeah,
Like
right
behind
to the
the-
back
They
side,
had
because
some
you were
reason-
throwing it over the bank.
They had some reason to believe that it's something that they need to check.
That was used as a holding areas, let's say.
And I'll just share that I visited the Warren Town Garage site yesterday, being built by REARC, and it looks great. It's a huge site. But they did not know what they were getting into, and they ended up having to dig down 12 feet. They found so much debris and that they did not expect to find. Like, I'm talking like trailers that were smashed flat, lots of cables and wires and gravel. I think they found a bridge, like concrete,
So it was
like basically
stumps.
remnants of an entire bridge.
Maybe
They
we
did
could
not
use it
know it
down
was
the
there.
other road.
And that created change orders, it created expense. It actually, they were ahead of schedule by 2 weeks, and this put them back on schedule. So it took 2 weeks extra. And part of the point of all of this is, if we stick with the current timeline, which we're going to talk about later, this should hopefully reduce some of the risk of that timeline.
I think it'd probably be a wise idea.
Yeah.
It's necessary if we want to, we're going to have to do it. There's no way around it.
Yeah, no,
Doing
let's
this.
go.
We do have the money in the reserve. It's $30,915. And that is not for remediation.
Yeah.
That is for the Phase 2 study.
But remediation
And that,
can be wrapped into the project cost. Go ahead, Larissa.
no, that was basically going to be part of my question was I recognize that this is entirely fact-finding. And are any of those facts going to result in a potential estimate for how much we think remediation will cost? I know it doesn't include the actual remediation itself.
That's right. The other main question is the water table and the storm water and water. But that's all wrapped up in this administrative report. And
I think the
We'll
civil
find out.
engineer and the designers will take this information and figure out how to design a building that addresses the issues.
we've been very intentional, the architecture firm, our town garage team, at trying to identify as much risk as possible so that we can stay on schedule, and that can reduce the cost a lot the more we know sooner. For example, the geotech we did, I forgot if we did 8 or 10 drillings. The Warren site did 4. We're quite more confident what we know about our soil than they knew, and that makes me feel good.
Is there potential, not to be a downer, but if we find things we don't want to find at the current building site, is there potential to move build the same building on a different spot on the lot and avoid disturbing the site as much or something?
MH2, our architecture firm, and I spent a lot of time talking about that yesterday and today. And so I think that we're going to spend at least a little time at the next town garage meeting to explore that, for multiple reasons.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yes.
So motion to go ahead with phase 2?
Move to authorize the town administrator to execute the AAS Inc. work scope proposal dated July 2nd for a Phase 2 environmental site assessment at 761 Trimley Road in an amount not to exceed $30,915 funded from the town garage reserve fund, and to acknowledge that any remediation, additional site investigation, or subsurface structure removal identified through that assessment is outside the scope of this authorization and would require separate select board authorization and a separate funding source.
Nice motion.
Well done.
Wow.
Thanks, Norm.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
I
I
knew that remediation was gonna be just.
I think we talked about this, but when would they would start this, like?
Oh, they're
ASAP?
ready to start.
Yeah, great.
Yep,
Awesome.
I think within a week.
Awesome.
So for the, I really wish I'd brought this up sooner, I think, with the kind of disturbance to the process that Red Loaf's dissolving caused and are wanting to stay on schedule. You know, York has done a lot of work lining up MH2, which we agreed to extend the pre-construction bond, pre-bond vote work to. I'm afraid that we're getting way ahead of the voters, though, when we start talking about hiring a construction manager. And, you know, one of the reasons that they've offered is they would need to order the metal for the building this fall. But we can't commit the town to buying a building until we have bond approval. And I'm wondering if we're just not gonna make construction next year, and we need to look to the next year, because we can't hire a construction manager, or even commit $300,000 for design until we have the voter approval. I mean, we could do some of the work in MH2, I think, pending bond approval in the contract, but it would need to say pending bond approval, and that would be their risk to do some of the work up front. And, you know, I'm confident that the voters will approve it, but you never know.
Yeah, I would make a distinction in my head anyway between buying the building or buying the steel and doing the design and engineering. And my thought there is just we could, if we did the design and engineering, committed $300,000, I think we have the funds to do that, or could borrow the funds to do that. Borrow against reserves.
Yeah.
Under the fund balance, et cetera. Where are we going with that? But if we didn't get our act together to have the bond vote in November, we could still do it in March. If we failed in November for some reason, because we didn't take the time to explain it well to the voters, we could come back in March or November or a special vote. So to me, that money spent on the design and engineering isn't gone or useless. We keep trying. The building that's a different one. Like, what are we? So the steel shows up. Like, what are we going to put it? What do we do with it? We may find things in the environmental assessment that cause us to do. You know, we have to pick a new site. We have to do something else that says we shouldn't buy the building today. But again, that design piece.
I agree. I don't think it's, but I think that the A&E is not, a lot of that's going to happen after November, even if we had to go ahead today. I'm wondering if we could pare it back to what MH2 can do between now and November. I agree with you. They should go further than just getting a cost estimate in bond information. We should move the project forward. But we could start permitting or start doing some of the design changes based on the environmental assessment. I agree with you. I'm comfortable with doing some of that upfront work beyond just a conceptual design and a bond vote number.
Because November, that's a good point. November's not that far off, so they would get through some of the scope, but not all of it within that time frame, likely.
Did you talk to them about it?
So I'll just say the one construction firm that said they wanted to order steel sooner than later, I talked to today, and I was like, it's a non-starter. And to state the obvious, it's impossible. Like, nobody's gonna order a building before it's gone to bond. And they knew that. I'm still a little unsure why they put it in the proposal. So the A&E fee, and my approximation of 70% to be spent before we go to bond is just about, I estimate, the only path forward to stay on a 2027 build timeline. If we don't care about moving to 2028, which is fine, we can still have a bond vote in November. there's still going to be some upfront costs to figure out how, to really have somewhat of a better idea. We lost Bread Loaf, so we're not starting from square one, but there are some things we have to answer. I would like to do it with the CM. With what I've learned, it would make the project so much better. And there's a cost to that too. But to come up with a price and somewhat of of what the building would look like, with acknowledging we're not going to build in 2027, maybe we could start in the fall of 2027 and then stop, in the winter. But that could only work if we moved the site. If we kept the existing building and changed where we're going to do it. From my understanding from talking to MH2 and the construction firms, if we want to stay on the timeline, we do not need to order the steel building, but we would probably need to commit about 70% of what the A&E cost is and the pre-construction cost for the firm that we choose.
And what is the pre-construction cost?
One firm is zero, and then it's not zero, it's $10,000 you pay after, and the most expensive is $16,000. So, and we have some money in reserve, and the local option tax is, as we know, bringing in money for our town garage reserve.
Yeah, then I don't have a problem with that. I think Josh spelled out the value of that pretty well. Is it really 70% of the 300?
That's my estimation. And I shared that today with my meeting I had at the MH2, and they did not disagree with it. It's just sticking, there's a lot of engineering costs, civil, structural, mechanical, the fire system, the Act 250. If we want to stick to the 2027 timeline, we'll be having conversations about 250 next week.
Yeah.
But again, I don't want to pressure anyone to feel like because again, I've never wanted to make this feel like a rushed experience. And I don't want it to be rushed because that's where we create risk and that's where we end up not having as good of a project. But acknowledging that lately, year over year, is a 6, 7, 8% increase. And that's pretty substantial.
It has been.
Yeah, it has been. Yep.
The economy hasn't tanked either.
Not yet. Somehow. In terms of the A&E, the 8% fee is a better fee than what we were going to do if we had ended up going with Bread Loaf. I feel pretty comfortable with it. Honestly, MH2, we have meetings almost daily lately, and they've just been doing that. And then both Michael and Mitch and I went out. We were gone almost 12 hours yesterday, visiting multiple sites around the state. To look at what other construction firms have done and to talk to, the public works director in Milton, to ask him questions about their experience with the construction firms. And it was great. We've been very fortunate that MH2 has been putting the time in for our project.
And I think we should keep them under contract, to move forward with them. It's just how far do we go without the voter approvals, Brian?
I did write our attorney, and he said there are mechanisms in place for us to legally do it. Whether
we can spend the money.
Yeah, whether the select board feels comfortable, that's a different conversation.
We can't obligate the town, we can't borrow, long-term debt without the town.
Right.
I just don't want to be that far ahead of the voters.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, trade-off between that and kind of losing a year, right?
Yeah. But if we could move ahead, if maybe, so what you're saying is perhaps a scope of work with MH2 to keep moving forward with what they would do before the bond vote, what they would do over the next 3 months, and choose a CM contingent upon bond approval with the exception of pre-construction work. That would be it. And then, so they would be involved. So they know if the bond passes, they're the guys.
Yeah, yes, that's right. And I've spent a lot of time reviewing and talking to references. I do feel confident that the CM method is similar to design build, but better.
I agree,
And
totally.
so I'm actually quite looking forward to this, this action, if that's what we choose to move forward with.
So I see the proposed motion for the A&E. What's the necessity of the CM tonight alongside that if we choose to do?
If we want to do a 2027 build, it's quite necessary. If the select board's comfortable saying, you know what, we feel more comfortable pushing pause, waiting, then we can, push it a few more weeks, and because then it's not as much a necessity. I want to be respectful to the firms. That I've actually asked a lot of them with what I issued with the mini RFP and the qualifications package. But they've done it happily, and they're all really excited about our project, to be honest.
I mean, I think we could do an agreement that's contingent upon bond approval, with the exception of pre-construction. And we could do pre-construction without that contingency, and then, if it's only $16,000.
They range from 10 to 16 for the
Yeah,
firms.
that makes sense to me. I mean, the way I'm looking at it, we know we need a new town garage. We're gonna go to the voters to approve a bond for it. If there's not enough information or it fails, we're gonna keep going to the voters. Because
Yeah.
our
And the voters
town garage crew,
unanimously approved the reserve fund for town garage.
Yeah, and the allocation of lot revenue to the reserve fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I mean, again, the question is, do you want to say, we're at the point where we do have to continue forward momentum if we want to do it 2027. And I just, do we want to set up, like I've had conversations with banks, I've talked to Sandy and Steve. We need to know sooner than later. I'm not sure, if we decide to go ahead with this, there's a 20% retainer for MH2. That I don't think is a huge problem, especially if we can take a few weeks to figure out financing. But the 70%, the over $300,000, that's the question. Do we want to continue with this timeline, or do we want to just say, let's just get to the point where we can go to bond, and then we'll look at a beginning in the fall of 2027.
Could they lay out a scope of between now and November?
Yeah.
We're going to go, my sense is we're in agreement with MH2, that they're our design team.
I would like that to be the case.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, to me, maintaining the option to build in 2027 is worth money. Like, let's say inflation is 3 or 4 or 5%. The change in project cost between 2027 and 2028, there's any percent, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yep.
And so maintaining the possibility of being able to do it next year if everything goes smoothly is worth both money and, I think that's in our fiduciary duty to try and do that for the taxpayers if we can, and if it doesn't cost us any, if we're doing it in a measured way.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
And all of the CM folks are going to understand that it has to be contingent upon the bond.
That would definitely be in the contract. Yep.
Yeah. And I think MH2, if they know we're going to go for them, but they have to be contingent on the bond, but we're willing to put more money up front for them to move it to stay on schedule.
So just to say what you said, like basically say, can we come up with a clear picture of what the scope would be to remain on a timeline for a 2027 build, but understanding that trying to keep that as tight as possible to have more of the percentage after the bond than before, but acknowledging that we are trying to keep the 2027 timeline open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all makes sense to me.
So does that require a motion at this point?
Yeah, if we are accepting their proposal and accepting, a retainer and moving forward, it means that I need to try to figure out funding. And even, I can't say for, if we wanted to get a loan, that would 100% require select board approval. But I think to say we may borrow from reserves or just come up with a mechanism where we talk to Sandy and Steve and begin the process of saying how are we going to fund this through November, I think that needs a motion, yes. I don't know, I don't.
Well, he's got a draft motion here, if we want to edit it or add what we need to do, it's on page 14. You want to get it to a place where we're comfortable with it?
Oh, that's why, it's a good page, the very top. I tried to, I gave a couple options. It's basically trying to come up with a mechanism for, what's the best rate. I've talked, like I said, I talked to 2 banks, I heard what the rates are. If we wanted to. I hear you.
I don't think we can borrow from the bank without the voters.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Same.
Although you talked to the lawyer who had some.
Yeah, it was pretty ambiguous, so I responded and asked for better clarity. It could be, we could do a mix of borrowing from reserve, which we definitely could do, and using some of the undesignated funds, a mix of the two. And of course, our town reserve is growing with the local option tax. Well, the town garage reserve.
It will grow on
Could we,
end of first quarter.
yes. By how much?
It'll be interesting.
It will be very interesting.
So we need to delete finance through Bridgeland here.
Or do you think they would balk if we said, look, can we sit down and talk through this? And
No.
we're going to go with you?
They're very open to having a conversation. I mean, every step of the way, they're like, I said, I'm
Wait, you said
struggling
they
to
would
figure
balk
out.
at that?
They would, no, they're happy to have a conversation.
Okay.
And an example is today I said, I'm really struggling to say whether we can come up with a 20% retainer right away. And they were like, that's totally fine. Like, I think they were excited about our project. I'll say, taking Mitch at his word, he said when he first talked to Mike, after our first meeting, he was so excited about our project because of the values that we shared and what we're looking to do for a town garage. And I think they are authentically excited about our project
Well, and I think,
and want to make it work.
well, and if I had just started a new business,
That is,
we'd want to have a good, positive, prominent project too, so.
but there's a cost to that.
Yes.
They're a new business.
Yep.
And I'm trying to be fair to that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So what I'm wondering is, rather than make a more detailed, accurate motion of what we're really approving before the town, with our giving them the commitment that we do want to move forward with you. That's a given. We just need to structure it in a way that minimizes our,
Financial obligation prior to the bond vote.
yeah.
Would you feel comfortable having a motion where we do sign the contract and so that we can continue with the timeline and maybe come up with the 5%? They said they were okay for a few weeks, even if it's a 5% deposit.
Yeah.
Is that reasonable?
I was just trying
And
to-
then have a conversation where we say, what's the most conservative estimate of what will the scope of work?
You have the town report. Do you recall the percentage of lot funds that we said we'd put to the town garage?
It's 15?
It was,
I remember it's 15.
15.
yeah, so that's likely going to be in the $100,000 range.
Annual.
Yeah, but just thinking of like what we commit in 2020 fiscal year 2027, which we're in now.
What's
So it'll be
the
more-
balance now?
600,000. Well, it'll probably, I think this will be one of the more lucrative quarters.
This is the balance of the town garage reserve fund now?
We just spent 32.
It's running lower because we've, geotech was quite pricey. It may have been pushing 30. So it's running low. I'm sorry, I didn't have that number.
We're going to talk about this with the tax rate, our unassigned balance is roughly $1,080,000. And we're going to talk about spending a little of that down with the tax rate, but it's still $500,000 above our policy of keeping money in reserve. And I used to think that 2 months in reserve was not enough, but then we created the All Hazards Reserve Fund in order to kind of buttress that. So I feel a lot more comfortable with keeping it at 2 months.
That's true.
So we had $100,000 at the start of this fiscal year. I think we committed half of that or something, 40 grand of that?
A little bit more.
More, because the geotech was, I don't want to misquote it, and I'm sorry, I didn't have that in there.
And we did approve, the voters approved transfer of $25,000 into the reserve this year in 27, so it would be 100 plus 25 less whatever we
Oh, did we
committed.
do 25 on top of the 100 that we did?
What do you mean? On top of the lot allocation?
No, how much did we put in? I thought we established the reserve fund this year. I guess we did it last year, didn't
Yeah, we did it last year. We put 100, that's what I'm showing anyway. We put $100,000 in
we? Last year.
last year and we added another 25 this year.
Okay, I didn't realize.
For the garage.
Yeah,
Reserve.
yeah, road department facilities reserve is.
Okay.
Just-
On the website.
So,
Just remember, the all hazard plan only has 10,000 in it, right?
I know.
So there's only so much of a buffer.
Yeah,
Resident.
hopefully we won't have a hazard until we get there.
I'll do my best.
plastic.
Moving to homepage. Under one of the first sections, if you scroll down, I think it's in one of these.
What are you guys doing?
We're trying to remember where the town.
Just trying to look at the minutes to
Oh,
see exactly what.
The geotech was just under 30,000, and that we've already paid. And like I said, we did a slightly bigger geotech.
Then we have
so
another 30-ish.
31 right now.
and what was the phase one?
Because they did some of the bidding, et cetera, was somewhere around 14.
Okay.
And the phase one environmental was like 2,000. Phase one for Breadloaf.
Okay. So we might have 50 grand then remaining after this year's contribution.
That's
Um,
sure.
And if we have roughly 100 of the lot revenue allocated, 15% of 600-ish, that would get us to 150, which is a significant
Mhm.
percent. Like, to me, I would feel comfortable committing that amount prior to bond vote. Because we know we have, or at least that amount, because we know we already have those funds set aside for the
Yeah.
town garage. And then beyond that would be undesignated fund balance or borrow from reserves.
It would be great to pay us back with the bond.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But that could get us, more than halfway to the, through the scope of the architectural and engineering work.
When is your next time you're going to talk to Mitch?
Probably tomorrow, although I'll be driving to Canada, so we'll see.
Oh,
But I'm sure they'll be
that's
interested
right.
to hear how it goes.
Yeah.
I'd like to have a conversation if we could get the committee together.
Yeah, that's great. But should we just plan one for next week?
You're going to be in Canada.
That's okay.
Could we make a motion tonight saying like up to, whatever, 50% of their scope or something that's in the ballpark of 175, 200 grand?
I think that's fine. And then if we,
Kind of gives you a
I
talking
mean, it
point.
gets us to where we
Yeah.
can, it gets us to a point where we can certainly start the work and sign the contract and know that there's, we're serious about moving forward.
Yeah.
And if there needs to be a little more pre-bonds, then we can have that conversation, but
Right.
maybe they can make it work.
Well, and the that amount, the 8%, whatever it turns out to be, is in addition to, we need to do a survey and the bond vote support, which is in addition to that. They're going to do voter education materials, postcards, whatever.
So how do we add it?
So you have a motion?
I think Josh half said it.
Let's see.
I mean, the beginning part is probably right.
Want to write down the edits?
Yeah, I'm
Finance
just
or which one?
thinking if we take the first part of your motion and moving to authorize to execute the agreement, at the 8% fee, blah, 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 but add language, this is not the motion itself, but add language limiting the, let's see, limiting the town's obligation to less than, I don't know what, less than $200,000 prior to the bond vote or something like that.
With the remainder contingent on a successful bond vote.
Right. So that would, I think the conversation then to have with them would be around how much of the scope of work they'd get done beyond the bond vote, before the bond vote anyway. And likely, hopefully those two kind of come into line. That would be, 50 or 60% of the scope versus your 70%. You're also, sounds like a new firm that's probably willing to take some risk for what might be their biggest contract to date. Or maybe their only contract to date.
I think several projects that were Breadloaf
Yeah.
I have continued conversations with them.
But still, they need,
Which is great.
I mean, there's
Oh, yeah.
known quantities, so they'll get work.
yeah.
It's not like they're
Hopefully.
completely,
No, I think they're well-respected architects.
Yeah.
And they have really good partners, like their engineering partners are, by all accounts, the best of the best, for example.
so with that motion, which we might end up fine-tuning in our minutes.
Well, I was just going to say, that was going to be pretty hard for Carol to
Yeah, we can,
decipher.
Yeah.
that was a pre-motion
That was a-
to
okay.
talk through the language.
It was a draft.
A draft motion.
Draft one.
And are we, is this pre-motion draft not considering the construction manager yet? Which may have a
That's right.
slight cost.
That'll have a different.
Yeah, but I think the rest of it, in terms of advance from town reserves, like if we've committed lot revenue to the town reserve account for the road department facilities, that's consistent. If we kind of borrow money from other reserves, that's consistent with this language. So I think the rest of it stands. The addition would be limiting the spend prior to the bond vote to, we could say 50% of the total cost. If you think that would work, that would be
That makes sense to me.
150, that'd be 170 grand.
Yeah, that sounds good. In addition to the pre-bond, which is only 4,000.
Yeah, that's
And the survey is something.
Survey's
we
4240.
can deal with that.
Yeah, okay.
So the 50% plus the 4240 and the 4,000. So basically, you're only changing a few words. Right.
So can you read back your understanding of how you would edit this with what we've discussed?
I can
Yeah,
just
go
take a
ahead.
stab at it and then we can edit in the minutes if we need to, if you're game with that.
Yep.
So I'd make a motion to authorize the town administrator to execute an owner-architect agreement with MH2 Architecture Studio LLC for architectural and engineering services for the town garage project at a combined architectural and engineering fee of 8% of the estimated construction cost, currently $340,080, plus a fixed site survey fee of $4,240 and a bond vote support of $4,000 for an estimated total design cost of $348,320, with the understanding that the town's commitment, funding commitment would be limited to 50% of that cost total prior to the, what is the date, November 3rd bond vote. And that any additional work above and beyond that 50% would be at the at MH2's risk. With pre-design cost financed through or advanced from town reserves to be reimbursed by the bond as available. And to acknowledge that if the cost increases, the town administrator will bring the adjustment back to the select board before proceeding.
And as you said at that time, it sounded like you added all of them together and then 50% of that, but before that you said that the 50% of not counting the 4240 and the 4,000.
Yes.
So 50%
Sure, that's
of
fair.
the total
Yeah, that's a good
plus
point.
4240 and 4,000.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah.
clarification.
Good at it. Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Adaptable.
I think that was the most complicated
If it
motion
sounds
we've
good,
had.
I'll send an email tomorrow with you two
Yes.
and Josh, and just explain what the motion was and say we're interested in having a meeting to talk about scope of work.
And tell him you can give me a call. You can give him my phone
Okay.
number.
Okay.
Awesome. That's exciting.
It is.
Stay good.
Yeah.
Moving.
The road
Yeah,
crew's
it's
really
huge.
excited. I understand.
Oh, good.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and besides the retaining the option to do 2027, I think it's important just to show them we're doing everything we reasonably can to get them into a better home.
Yeah.
ASAP.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that timeline reasoning, but we can talk about that another time.
So what about the CM?
So I'm going to keep this pretty quick because I think we want to mostly talk about the executive session.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
We had conversations with 3 firms, and then there were a couple others that were recommended. They sent qualification packages to us that were quite lengthy and impressive, but I really struggled to understand I just didn't know how to compare them. So we did issue what I call a mini RFP to just the 5 firms. They did respond. We received all 5 that are in the meeting packet. It helped us a lot be able to say, okay, this is semi-comparing apples to apples, but there's still gaps and some questions that I've worked pretty hard at understanding. I think the 5 firms could all build a garage. They would all do a great job. They all offer something different. I've reached out to as many references as I could. I've talked to several. And as I mentioned before, Mitch and Michael at MH2 and I went on a road trip yesterday and viewed several sites. We went to Warren Town Garage site where they're building right now. That's REARC. It was fantastic. And then we went to Milton. You looked at their brand new garage that they just moved into about 2 years ago that Connor built. Then we went up to, and by the way, the garage in Milton is remarkable. Like, it's just really nice. Well thought out, gave myself and Mitch and Michael a lot of ideas. Then we went to Georgia for another garage that Connor built that they moved in 2020. More similar to the garage that our town garage team has been working on with Red Loaf and MH2. And then we're down back to Milton to look at a huge complex where we actually bought our last plow. And it's also where Premier Coach is, the bus line. It's 37 acres of buildings that DEW built, like almost all of the buildings. And it was great. I mean, it took all day to do those, and it was very insightful. The project, the CM fees that are shown in the town administrator report and in the meeting packet are different. And I really worked at digesting and finding any gaps and finding the gray of where they make up that difference. And but there will be a cost difference based on them, and they all have different qualifications, and they've been really great to work with, to be honest. And I just want to say again, I'm excited about this arrangement where we have an architecture and engineering work done, and our town garage team, unfortunately minus Charlie, because he was exceptional on the team, Charlie Goodman, and the construction manager that really is going to offer a ludicrous amount of value because they know things that none of us know, and it's going to equal a better product. Can I keep it that simple
Yep,
until we
yep,
go
we'll
into executive session?
talk about
Great.
details.
Yep.
Okay. Tax rate setting. We have a revised memo from Steve, and there might be some revisions to that based on an email that Chach sent this afternoon.
This is after that.
Oh, this is after that?
Yep.
Good.
I'm hoping I'm just gonna, yeah, this is after that, so this is,
Steve gave it to me at about 4:35.
yeah, this all ties out.
Did you
to-
connect with Mary
Yes.
Jane?
Yeah, Spencer, actually.
Okay.
But he gave detailed breakdown.
Oh, so that's where the 800,000 that we pay the school taxes on 800, even though a million is exempted,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, if you're game, I could take a walk through.
Let's walk
this
through it.
stuff.
This one.
That's what, Larissa, I just shared it with you via email.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can.
How long are we?
Larissa, are you still in a parking lot?
I 100% am.
3 hours.
Yep.
We can extend
You
by-
deserve-
I am in a Wegmans. I'm in a Wegmans parking lot because it was that much of a bear getting out of Boston.
I don't know
Wow.
whether executive session.
Yikes.
fits
Well,
into
Wegmans
that
is
or
a good
not.
store.
You might know that.
Stop it.
That's the biggest question.
So background information, time for the town to send out the property tax bills, right? Which means we need to finalize the property tax rate. And we obviously finalized the budget and the special articles and all that stuff back in March. We were waiting for the updated grand list values and have recently received those. So now we can finalize the property tax rate based on the budget approved by the voters and the grand list value as of, I think it's as of June 30th. Close enough.
Sure.
So good news is the grand list value went up considerably more than we had budgeted. We had budgeted a 0.3% increase, and the actual grand list went up 2%, which is a huge increase.
Do you know
in a single year.
how much of that was the phone company? Just curious.
Close to one-ish? Might be almost half of
I
it.
think that was at least half of it, yeah.
Okay.
But still.
It's still up above what we,
Yeah,
even without that, it would have been.
yeah, so, yeah, it went up at least twice as much as we had expected, and then there was a kind of a windfall from a state mandated reassessment of the telecom poles and wires that caused a significant increase in their grand list value. So that,
And just with regard to that, when we talked about it before, we were concerned that they were going to appeal and it could go to court, so we might end up with a reduction in January, and now it sounds as though they have reached a settlement with the state, so that's much less likely.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
probably could have moved the errors and omissions before this, because that would have,
That was gonna be my question, is does the memo take into account the error and omission?
it does.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So all that kind of, let's see, I guess a little more background. Last year, the municipal property tax rate was 58 cents and 37/100ths. This year, based on the budget passed, the special articles, and the estimated increase in the grand list, the new municipal tax rate was going to be about 60 cents. So up 2.8%. Or actually, no, that was based on the original grand list estimate.
That's right.
Now with the new higher estimate grand list, that'll drive down the tax rate. The piece that's reflected, some of what's reflected in Steve's memo is getting actual adjustments for the local tax exemption agreements for Mervis and Couples Club and Masonic Lodge. Veterans get an exemption, and the two properties that are still under the agriculture stabilization rate. So working with Spencer and Mary Jane to finalize those adjustments, the final rate with the new grand list value, less those exemptions, with the special articles, with everything, would be 0.5995. So that is, less than what we had originally estimated for the special articles. So we've essentially been able to fund the special articles through the increase in the grand list, if that makes sense, which is great. Then I think there's a further question that we still have a penny and a half, 1.6 cent increase in the rate from last year to this year. And Brian, I might let you take it from there.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, that we do have an unassigned balance of $1,080,000. I feel as though, when we presented the lot to the community, we did not say it was going to reduce taxes, but we did say it was going to prevent increases that would otherwise occur because of our capital needs. And I just think that it's more than double our policy of maintaining a reserve to deal with hazards. And I think it would be just good. I think the taxpayers would appreciate a level tax rate this year, and I think we could do that with spending down $64,250 of that unassigned balance, assigning that to our operating fund, having a level tax rate of 5837, and with the recognition that we're going to have a bond vote in November, we're going to have a bond vote in March for the Better Road Bridge, hopefully, that there will be tax increases in the future to cover that. But this year, we are able to provide relief by giving some of the money back to the taxpayers that we have collected and didn't use. And we would still have an unassigned balance of over $1 million.
I think that's excellent.
No, I think it's a great idea.
I'll just share the 2-month operations is about 476,160. I don't know if you said that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. So we're over double that.
Larissa, are you good with that?
No, I would absolutely be in support of that.
Yeah, I think I'm totally in support of it too. One reason I'm in support of it is we are going to be asking a lot of our voters in coming years with the wastewater bonding, the town garage, the fire station eventually, Meadow Road Bridge. Like, there's a lot coming. Hopefully we'll be able to pay for a lot of that with the lot revenue, but it's unrealistic that we'll pay for all of it. So there will be, the town taxpayers are going to need to bear some of the cost of those infrastructure improvements. So to the extent we can kind of set the stage for that by having 3 years of very modest or zero budget increases this year and the prior 2 years, I think that'll help us get voter support for those upcoming infrastructure investments.
Mm-hmm. So is there a motion to set the tax rate at 5837.0.5837?
Yes, I'd make that motion.
Second?
Second. You want it? Second.
Do we need part of that motion to say that the shortfall of what we budgeted and the revenue raised will be covered by the undesignated?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So yeah, amend the motion that to set the fiscal year 27 municipal tax rate at 0.5837 cents. What is it per $100 of assessed value? That will yield slightly less tax revenue than approved by the voters at town meeting, and we will make up what's approximately a $64,000 shortfall with undesignated fund balances from prior years.
Second. Again? Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think our biggest challenge is communicating to the voters what we just did.
Yes.
Make it, it can easily get washed away when we get the state tax.
which did go up.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
is
and
going
that's,
up.
and that's what the voters will look at. Once again, I advocate for some PR work for the select board.
That one next.
Yes.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. If we had something in the Valley Reporter or Front Porch Forum talking about levelizing the tax rate and using some of the undesignated fund balance to do so. Because last year we actually had an article, not at last town meeting, March of 26, but March of 2025 to allocate some of the undesignated fund balances to reserve accounts.
That's right.
So there is precedent for using some of that reserve balance to offset the burden on taxpayers. And it is their money, after all.
After all, yes.
Our money as we're all taxpayers too.
Yeah.
Taxpayers, that's right.
Yep. Yep.
That's a good, we talk about that, I can.
Yeah, doing it's the most important thing, and we can talk about it when appropriate.
Yeah. So then we have the errors and omissions.
Wait, can you do that real quick?
Oh,
That-
sorry, yeah. So, again, Steve asked us to waive the penalty for property owners that don't file their homestead declarations one time. And again, we've done that for the last 15 years. So a motion would be to waive the penalty for property owners who fail to file their homestead declarations on time, but do file it late.
I thought we just waived it outright. Was it only if they eventually filed? I thought in prior.
Well, I guess we would just waive it outright, because if they don't file, they don't have a penalty.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So, yeah, a motion to waive the late declaration penalty.
Make that motion.
Second? Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Jennifer will appreciate that.
Yes, it's important. Okay, now we've got the errors and omissions. And York had suggested a motion.
Do you want me to explain it, or is it good, or I can read the motion if you like?
Find it.
Move to approve the errors and omissions authorization for parcel 099047100, and I'll add that's the Waitsfield and Champlain Telecom, reducing the assessment from $8,022,100 to $3,898,800 as requested by the assessor.
Okay. You can't make that motion.
No, but when I read it and someone says something.
Yes, somebody else?
I would so move.
Okay, there you go. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Glad that came out.
This was-
so cleanly.
Nobody thought this was going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that was a faster
So it
turnaround
was
time
that
on
it-
information than I was expecting.
Correct?
I think it's the, my understanding is part of it is that they were double taxed, that they included in the state assessment something that we also, like the actual buildings. But those are on our assessment, not their assessment. So, yes.
Route 100B Bridge.
I don't want to say much about it. We talked about it earlier. I have started conversations with V-Trans. I've had several emails back and forth already, just acknowledging that it's a problem. And they're willing to meet, but I didn't want to move forward with that until we've been busy, but until I presented to the select board that there is going to be a detour in the summer, most likely of 2029, to replace the temporary bridge on Route 100. I think it's on 100B.
It is.
It does, the website, which I think I included here, does actually say that the detour's for under a certain amount of weighted vehicle, and there's an extra detour that's noted, but I think we know from experience that's unlikely. Fred's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So my hope is that we can have really good conversations with them to see if there's anything that they can do to alleviate the pressure of this bridge detour that's fast approaching. And I think there's several things that they could do for us, and I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, if we can leverage it towards a conclusion, but using that bridge now, we'd have to close it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
ultimately-
having trouble keeping heavy vehicles off it as it is now. If they route that, people are gonna, the heavy trucks are still gonna use Meadow Road Bridge because it's so much shorter.
Yeah.
So what is our,
And-
the option would be to push to the next bridge, push the detour further?
The other detour is, I don't think simple.
The other detour is the Pine Brook Covered Bridge.
Well, that's not, and
But
then,
that-
Which-
yeah, well,
no, the
that is its own
detour,
issue,
the
height
detour on the
restrictions.
website, and I don't remember because now it's been a couple weeks, is way out of the way.
It would be Route 100.
Yeah, over to Waterbury, then Route 2,
Yeah.
That might be what it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
but
To get them on Montpelier, you'd have to go.
So the question is it possible we could have a bridge built before that? It's probably unlikely. Is it possible that we can say, now you basically have to give us a temporary bridge? I think that's a very
I think-
possible scenario.
Is it our authority to close Meadow Road Bridge?
Yeah,
And V-Trans
yeah.
can't do anything about
That's
it?
our ultimate leverage.
Yeah.
we are the
closed-
only,
So-
They closed the bridge.
There are residents, and farmers, and I don't think they would want it closed, so I hope. we
No,
don't have to do that,
that's
but-
certainly,
But that is our ultimate leverage.
we are the only authority that can close that bridge.
Which was first told to us by V-Trans. And they were like,
Well, and
they were
that's-
like-
that's
they were
just
adamant,
it,
they're like,
is
you
that-
can't keep
You
it any
told
time,
us."
close that bridge, and only the select board can do it. And we'll be like, this is
well,
what
and
you
that's,
told
that's
us.
just, this is one of those, like, the right hand is not talking to the left type of things, and, yeah. Because I don't see that being something that can happen
It can't.
safely. So I feel like in the event that, my feeling is that in the event that they try to use Meadow Road Bridge, I don't think it would be responsible for us to leave the bridge open.
And
That's my,
Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
know how we could leave it open just to local traffic either.
You'd have to close it.
there, we couldn't.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I need to bring this to the select board, because even though 2029 feels like far away, this hopefully
It's
is enough
not.
time that V-Trans and us can come up with an arrangement.
Yeah.
That might be the year
Yeah.
that we want to replace the bridge.
I am hopeful.
And our detour would be 100B.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's another good point. I mean, we're gonna have to collaborate for that reason as well.
Yeah, and, that's-
So I'm not saying go nuclear immediately.
No, no,
I'm just,
Oh.
as I'm thinking like the logical extension
Oh, go nuclear.
of what.
I think you're right. I guess my question would be, there was an interest from the state that said we would like to meet. Is there anyone on the select board that would like to be in that meeting or on those emails?
Yeah, I would be.
Yeah, me too.
Is everyone okay with that? Fred?
Yeah.
Put Fred and Brian on them so
Yeah.
that it's not
not quorum.
an open meeting
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah, and, just for, as the other is, it's a 7-minute addition from town clerk to the State House. Is if you go on 100B currently, it says 25 minutes, and if you take Waterbury, it says 32 minutes.
No way. That's hard to imagine.
Yeah.
That's what Google Maps says.
Google
So-
Maps.
Maybe it's 8 minutes, but less than 10, I would think,
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It's longer mileage,
for sure. It's,
and that's a lot of the
it's
farmers that come in.
7 miles longer.
It's not bad.
Anyway, that's like another alternative that,
And I think the website, I assume that's the one the website says for heavier trucks, this is the detour.
Route 100 over Duxbury Hill is not pleasant.
No.
That's a good point.
And the
too.
problem is, even if that was the official detour, everybody knows what the real,
Oh, yeah.
they learned during the last flood quickly.
Yeah.
If we're.
Yeah, I think given that we have prior experience that we can reference of what happens when additional traffic is routed,
yeah.
I think we have a good basis for a productive conversation with V-Trans about creative solutions.
Yep.
And I think they'll be appreciative that we're creating that dialogue.
So do you want to mention?
And I do,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I do wonder if it's worth, since this is a more town bridge and we've got this tri-town traffic calming sort of subcommittee. I know that that's, or not subcommittee, but just sort of informal group of folks who meet and talk. It's kind of outside of the scope of what they're talking about, but I feel like that could be an opportunity to connect with the Moortown Select Board folks, to just let them know, hey, this is what's on the horizon. Because if we have more than one town saying, hey, please, can we find a good solution? I feel like that can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, I was going to mention the same thing. This select board ought to talk to their select board and just let them
I was
know.
gonna say Dawn, I think would be very, very much.
I've actually already, thanks Larissa, I had forgotten, I mean, I have talked to Don about this in the last couple of weeks because one farmer on that side of the Meadow Road Bridge came to me, very respectful, but saying these are the issues with even going through Porting Farm Road and that detour. And there's things that Moortown could do that could make it easier for our big trucks. And so I saw Don and I said, hey Don, is this something that you'd be, at least Moortown Select Board would be willing to discuss with the Waitsfield Select Board? And I think there's an interest there. And that might be part of the conversation. And it's a good point, Larissa.
I think whenever there's sort of like a state entity involved and it's a small town, if we have more than one of our voices, it's helpful.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep, I think that's a great idea. Do you want me to?
I don't know when we're rescheduling that meeting. It was supposed to be today and I was gonna have to say I couldn't make it anyway, or yesterday. But I'll make a note to mention that at the next one. But if you can make a note also, York, that would be great.
I'll try to respond to the V-Trans email that I did about a week ago, and I'll add Fred and Brian, and I'll add at least Don for Moortown. I think that's a good idea. Do you want me to talk about the FEMA?
No, I guess you
It's in there.
explained it pretty well in your TA report. Just the short of it is the cost estimate for the decking on the Meadow Road Bridge was higher than anticipated, $400,000. That is potentially a reimbursement to the town for 75% of that.
Correct.
That does not have to be used on the existing bridge, but can be put in reserve to help pay for the decking on a future bridge.
And that took, FEMA has not agreed to that price. We just got it. I have sent it to FEMA. Hopefully it's gonna be a go, and that would be huge. It's taken a good bit of work to get to this point where FEMA agreed to say they'll put it in the notes that we can use it for a future bridge. And I mean, I feel very happy about it.
And how does that work? It's just basically mechanically, it's an IOU that sits out there until we
would
build
get
a new bridge, or are they gonna send us
We would get a check.
75%
We would get a check.
sooner?
Yep.
Put it in that
75%.
bridge reserve.
Okay.
Yeah.
75% of, if FEMA agrees to this, $404,688.17.
I like that one better, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge win.
I far prefer that to an IOU from a federal agency.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And before we hired York, I went to a lot of FEMA meetings. And
Oh my God.
give York some credit for this one for.
No, this was a win. I can put my hands up and be like, you're welcome.
You get many gold stars, but you get
No, this was a good
a
one.
particularly shiny gold star for dealing with that.
I accept. Moving on.
Okay, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move that we adopt the consent agenda or pass the consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town administrator's report, and York, it was an exceptional town administrator's report.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I totally agree.
I'll
A
just
lot.
say, I wanted to make this meeting a little easier, and it took a lot of work, but it's true.
I was gonna say that was a non-trivial amount of work.
The proposed motion.
I do it now and then, and this time I felt like it was good.
I asked York earlier today if hyperlinks might be a possibility. So we could-
Yes.
So we could not have a 200-page scroll down through and maybe just click on it and have it pop up on
Might
another
be
window?
210 pages, I don't remember. I will try to figure that out.
My printer stopped working, and I was worried I was gonna run out of juice on my iPad, so I had Jonathan print his work. And it's a co-working space, so there was a line at the printer
That's funny.
waiting for us to. Anyways.
I won't share anything for town administrator report. We still have an executive session.
Select Board Roundtable, Larissa, do you have anything?
I do have a quick thing, which was, so the marathon that happened, it's an exciting event. I think it has gotten more popularity now that it's been published in other books. So my experience of being somebody who lives on East Warren Road, while that was happening, was such that I think in future it could be great to, work with the folks who organize that so that runners know where they can be on the road and that there's more clarity on what the people running the marathon hope drivers will do, because the only instruction that was given, the roads were open and there were signs up that said, please drive with caution. There are runners, which makes sense. We were berated by a volunteer, ad hominem attack, pulled us over. It was a lot. I went back and spoke with her afterwards to sort of say hey, let's come up with a solution in the future. But yeah, if 20 miles per hour on East Warren Road feels dangerous to the people who are running the marathon, then we need to do something differently. So I'm not sure what that something is, but I just wanted to say that that was not my most favorite experience, and it's clear that some people feel very physically intimidated, understandably, because I walk my 6-month-old in a stroller on East Warren Road. I get that it's scary, and I feel like we need to set clear expectations with folks who are running, and potentially, mark off a side of the road that they can be on or something. So especially if that gains popularity and traction, I think it's a wonderful event. I'm really glad that it happens. And I just want to make sure that everybody feels safe while they are doing that, and that there's clear communication about what needs to happen for people who are still trying to drive. Because I'm very rarely somebody who would side with a driver over somebody on foot, and that's not what I'm trying to say here. I think there's an opportunity in the future for better communication.
I had a complaint last year to that effect, that one of the race officials or workers was rather rude and everything to a driver who had been very patient and everything.
And that
and that's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say, that was a volunteer, and the organizers were pretty upset about it, and they definitely said they were gonna take care of it and spoke with that individual, and
Which, this year?
that was last year.
But it happened again this year.
Oh, it did happen?
Where
Oh,
was
that's why I
where was
heard-
the volunteer? I'm just curious, Larissa.
No, I'll make it.
This was sort of as East Warren Road curves to turn into Bridge Street. We were basically taking my child, who was too young to be on the back of a bicycle, in a car seat to see her grandparents. But it was just a few feet away, so I turned around and walked back up the hill to have a conversation
Yeah, the reality is
with the individual.
our mandate in approving the permit or whatever we do for a permit for the marathon needs to coexist with drivers. It's not a full closure, and if it's causing strife, we need to figure out a better plan.
Yeah.
Especially if...
I think there need to be clear expectation sets both for the runners and for drivers, and that's...
if there are two cars coming at the same time, that creates an obvious problem, because runners, especially more serious ones, and even less serious ones, are going for PR or whatever it is. They don't want to stop and swerve around, and so
It's a hard marathon. I acknowledge that. I know that it is a very, very hard race, and I don't want to downplay that that's
right.
a big deal. And I very much support it as an event. I just, When somebody tells my husband in front of our daughter that he should be ashamed of himself, and that he is a Vermonter and he should act like one. It just, to me, is,
Doesn't look good.
especially given the amount of time and energy that he and I both individually spend trying to make it easier for people to be here and to travel. It stuck in my proverbial craw.
No.
That is my roundtable contribution for the evening, which was much longer than it needed to be. Moving on.
Dave?
Okay.
I just wanted to know. If
Thanks for listening.
Ralston Road, East Warren Road intersection, I'm glad it wasn't.
I will
What's
keep
that?
out.
It's easy to pass the runners coming up the dip near Sherman Road because they're all walking. That's why I go down. And watch them, and it's not their best moment of the race.
I'll just share that I think Jocelyn Hill is towards the beginning.
Yeah.
And I talked to someone that sits there because they live there, and they were like, every year they see people that get by the, like, how much further? They're like, oh, there's a little hill left, and they're like, forget it, and they turn around and give up. And that's like within the first few miles, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love it. That's not an easy race.
Nope.
I'll reach out to the organizers, Larissa, and then.
Okay.
And they're,
Do you want me to loop you?
they're
in
very,
on that, Larissa?
very responsive. I mean, they will,
Oh, they're great.
yeah, they're,
Larissa, would you like me to loop you in on that conversation, or?
Or,
Sure.
Josh, do you have anything?
I don't want to take, I feel like there's a line that I need to delineate that this is something that is in the interest of the town. I don't want this to be something that is specific to me or my experience. So if you think it would be better to not loop me in, I also understand.
I think you giving context is a way that they can understand, what the issues can be and how they can resolve them in the future. I think it's appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will
Fair
say to you, like, I didn't drive out during the marathon, mostly because of this, and I was able to be at home, but I wondered what would happen if I did, for sure.
Well, and typically I don't. I try not to,
No,
but in this case it
it's
was.
not an option for people if they need
Oh, yeah.
to have an appointment or
Yeah.
have to go do something, so. Thanks.
Fred? Anything?
Nothing, no, thank you.
I'm good too. A motion to go into executive session?
I hope I have it right, Dave. If you want to take them, it's on both sides of the page. Actually, no, maybe.
This one?
Yeah, there's two.
Yeah, I don't think we need a finding, right?
I don't think for the first one we do.
Yeah.
You need I think,
Oh.
finding for the B.
Yeah, okay, so first, I move to enter executive session to discuss disciplinary or dismissal action against a town employee under 1 VSA 313A4, and to invite the town administrator to attend. And then, second, I move to find that premature general public knowledge of the town garage construction manager proposals and contract clearly puts the town at a substantial disadvantage, and thus move to enter executive session to discuss those proposals and the contract under 1 VSA section 313A1A, and to invite the town administrator to attend.
Second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.